Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to African Women of Board for this opportunity. It's a delight to be here, and I'm excited to be having this conversation about reimagining work, looking particularly at young lawyers. And I'm excited because I'm seated with young lawyers as well. This is as close to practicing law as I come. So I'm excited. Thank you. And that's why I had to come out. I know that you don't dress like this anymore, but I had to try and make an effort to remind myself that you were actually called to the bar. So thank you very much for this. Okay, so I'll be starting off today's conversations. You know, I'm Edidiong, I'm glad that you're here. Let's look at you're in the space, right? We just heard from Professor Ige, and he's talked about a lot of the effort that has been put into making school a safe space. Let's look at what, from your perspective as someone in the system, do you think that enough is being put into preparing you for life as a lawyer beyond the academics? Give us an insight into that.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I just start by saying I'm really honored to be sharing this stage with this caliber of people. Okay, so preparing us for the legal environment. While I'm still in the university right now, I have been privileged to intern at a couple of top-tier law firms. And at the moment, while a lot of efforts are being made in teaching us the substantive part of the law, I'm not sure we are quite there yet as regards the working environment. For starters, it is very different out there. Your first time, you're going to be overwhelmed because what you think it is not what it actually is. I mean, for someone like me, I thought it was going to be like, you know, the TV shows, How to Get Away with Murder. I was shocked when I got out there and saw that life is not how it is for Annalise Keating in the movie. So I'm not sure in the university stage enough is being done to prepare for the outside world as it is. Because
so what would you recommend from where you stand? What do you think you need to see? And I'd also like Ifeoma to answer that as well, because you are also in the workspace. You're now a lawyer. You went through this phase that Edidiong is currently in. Edidiong, if you'd like to highlight, are there some things you feel should be added, some areas you think should be modified?
Yes, I believe the procedural aspect of law should at least be highlighted while still in the university stage, because right now we deal only in substance, so we just know the substantive parts, even not all of it. We don't have any brush with the procedural parts, except for courses like legal system, where you just learn about courts. Apart from that, you don't know how maybe the litigation process goes up and things like that. So I believe the procedural part of law should be introduced. And I would like to recognize the efforts of my faculty for introducing the new course, Legal Research, to our curriculum. So prior to that, you only learn about legal research maybe when you're doing a competition, writing a brief or a memorial for that purpose. But introducing that course has reintroduced law students to researching outside the four walls of the classroom. And I think that's a step in the right direction, even while more needs to be done.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So Ifeoma, give us an insight, still following from that question. You're in the system.
Yes, thank you very much. So if I were to rate on a scale of 100%, how ready the universities make us for workplace, I would say 40%. And I'll use myself as an example. I schooled in the South. So when I came to Lagos for law school, it seemed like I didn't know what I was doing. And first of all, I didn't like to study law. So I just, got around with it and, write, study, read, pass, and all of that. So when I came to law school, I got in love with law because it was procedural and it was way different from what were taught in the university. So the issue is you're taught just the substantive law in the university, and then at law school it seems like there's a flip, there's a switch, and sometimes it's hard for people to get on, sometimes it's not. And then when you leave law school and you just get into working and all that, for some persons, they never actually really get it because they were not prepared from the 5 years that they spent in the university. So when I was in school, I never did internship. I never for one day did it. It was when I came to Lagos that I saw that it was actually a thing. And University of Lagos, they do so well with, having their students go for internships and all of that. So by way of recommendation, I would say that beyond teaching the substantive law, it's important to get the students ready for workplace by, throwing them out there to, engage in internships. It shouldn't just be happening in Lagos.
So we shouldn't wait till law school for
Yes.
the court and chamber attachment.
Yes,
You should start
certainly.
much earlier.
Certainly.
All right, brilliant.
Thank you. From your year 2, I think students like to do things when they know that they'll get a reward for it. You would be doing it to help them, but you can even actually make it a grading system. Yes, exactly. Make it a course. You go for internships, you write reports, you give feedbacks on what you learn. I think from that, they start learning how to behave in the workplace. You have interns come to you have students or graduates coming to do internship in your office. And I mean, in my office, for instance, and we start from the basics of how to respond to emails, how not to ignore me when I send an email to you and all of that. Those emailing etiquettes and, how to just be in the workplace should start from the university. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ifeoma. Now, we understand that law as it is, as we studied, doesn't give you the opportunity to become, to sort of decide which path you want to take whilst in university. So you don't specialize in university, as we do it here in Nigeria. Neither do you do that in law school. However, we know that law firms also have a huge role. The first law firm or first few law firms you're working as a young graduate has a huge role to play in deciding your career path. Adedunmade, right after law school, you registered your law firm, but you didn't decide to go on your own immediately. You went under tutelage for, I think, 5 years before coming back to start your own law firm. From your experience in those 5 years, what would you say are some of the key things that young lawyers should look out for in deciding what law firms they need to work with at the beginning of their career?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. First of all, I'd like to take a little bit of the protection that was accorded the learned silk. I realized that it seems that it's only one male person on the panel, but as a brother to 3 sisters, and also some of my co-panelists I regard as my sisters as well, I feel very comfortable being here with you, so thank you very much. In regard to your question as to what I feel young lawyers should pay attention to when they want to work in a firm, I think the first thing we tend to look at, of course, is money. You want to know how much you're going to be paid. And when someone tells you as a young lawyer, oh, don't focus on the money, focus on the work, you look at them and twist your eye like, what do you mean by that? We all know how important money is. But other things that I like young lawyers to pay attention to is the culture of the firm. So that is sometimes very difficult to ascertain when you're not in the firm. So sometimes law firms can be very secretive with their culture, and you don't really know much about the culture until you are well in the firm. So yes, if you can get an idea of what the culture in the firm is about, it's going to be very important. Then also opportunity for growth. So I worked in a firm where at the time, I realized I was just going to be a lawyer for life. I was never going to make partner, because it was literally run by one person. I was never going to make partner. And even the guys that have been there before me, were just lawyers, basically. There was not really any kind of career progression, apart from just going to court and coming back for the rest of the time you were there. And I wasn't satisfied with that. So I like young lawyers to also pay attention to that. Is there opportunity for career growth? How long do you have to work in a firm before you can become a partner? Or how long before you get a promotion? Those are 3 things I like young lawyers to look at. If there's any other thing I feel I would like them to look at is the caliber of people who manage the firm. Because a lot of things come from leadership, right? And it comes all the way down. And I believe that if you have, not serious-minded, because naturally lawyers are serious-minded, but if you have people who are very future-focused, who are very proactive, who are looking to mentor you and not take advantage of you, then I feel you are kind of in a good space. So yeah, those are the things I like people to look out for.
Thank you very much. Foza, in an interview with Culture Custodian, you had mentioned your mentors. One of them was Miss Uduak Odok. So you understand the importance of the mentor-mentee relationship. There are a lot of young lawyers who are looking to build these relationships. How would you advise them to go about it? Also in such a way that the lines are not blurred, and then we start to see an abuse of younger lawyers or them being taken advantage of.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Foza. Thank you, AWB, for this opportunity. Very interesting question, because the mentor-mentee relationship is a very sacred one, because what the mentor is doing is pouring into you, and it's quite exhausting for the mentor. And most time, almost not rewarding, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the mentees coming up right now believe that they are entitled to my time, or you are entitled to what the mentor is supposed to give you. No. It's a relationship that is supposed to be built on trust and confidence. For me to give you access, I must trust you. If you want me to give you access to my knowledge that I've spent 10 years building or 20 years building or whatever it is, I'm a human being. You're not going to come to me like a statue and just feel like, oh, because you are great in this space, you have to. No, I don't have to. I'm not legally obligated to. I'm morally obligated to, and I choose how I want it to be. So in that situation, I always feel like the mentee has more responsibility than the mentor, because half the time the mentor is actually extremely busy, and that relationship has to be cultivated. Most times I see it as big brother, big sister, relationship, where there has to be respect, and there has to be an exchange of value, right? For me as a mentor, I don't want money from you. I don't want anything from you. What I want is your success. So it's your responsibility to be successful, whatever I pour into you. As the mentee to the mentor, right, it's my responsibility also to make sure that I provide a safe environment for you to discuss and for me to engage and show you the way and help you through. I'm not supposed to hand you fish. I'm supposed to teach you how to fish. Now, a lot of the problems that we face with mentor-mentee relationships is that most mentees expect that the mentor hands them stuff. It's not supposed to be. They just show you the way.
Okay, still very quickly, how do we ensure that we don't blur these lines? Because
so in terms of, that's what I'm saying, like, once you understand the mindset of it's an exchange of value, and you're not entitled to anything in this relationship, and it has to be built on trust. So when I trust you enough, to give you access into my space, and I trust you also enough not to. So, for example, one of my mentors is married, is a married man. I'm not going to be calling you past 7 p.m. except I have the permission of your wife to do that, right? Some people, have different set of rules. Depends on the person you're dealing with and how. I think everybody has a moral sense of compass that builds certain boundaries between different relationships. So it's a work in progress. But in general, I think some things are just like morally up to you, to set up and stuff. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. Thank you very much, Foza. I'll come back to you, Adedunmade. And thank you, that's very good. Thank you very much. You've built a very viable brand on social media with the amazing work that you do via Legalnaija. Thank you for that, by the way. I've learned a lot from that. Well done. Now, we see that as the world is bringing us closer, we're seeing technology making us realize that the world is indeed a global village. More and more young lawyers are seeing the need to take up space on social media. How do they do this without running afoul of the provisions of the rules of professional conduct for legal practitioners, knowing how very conservative this profession is? Or would you say maybe this is time for us to visit a review of the RPC?
Okay, so I wrote a book titled Social Media for Lawyers, and in that book I shared some of the tips I'm going to say now. So social media as a lawyer helps you establish yourself as a thought leader, helps to showcase your expertise, right, and also helps you meet potential clients, especially online. In regards to the RPC, I believe that there's literally nothing you want to do that the RPC doesn't let you do already. The only thing you cannot do is pay for an advert, really. And I believe that if we're allowed to pay for adverts, then we might not be able to compete with a lot of the larger firms that we have now. For instance, my firm is quite a smaller firm compared to the firm of the Leonard Silk, And if we're both going to pay for adverts, right, of course, everybody is going to go his way because his adverts, might actually be more engaging than mine or might look more expensive than mine. So I believe that the RPC actually allows us to express ourselves online and also to take advantage of online opportunities. For instance, there is something that we also do on Legalnaija, which is we created a directory for lawyers. So the directory allows you to find a lawyer in any part of the country and also by virtue of the lawyer's area of practice. And I remember when we started it, a number of lawyers said this is against the RPC and all that, but I reminded them that if you actually go and read the RPC, you will see that the RPC says you can be listed in the lawyer's directory, and the RPC states what you can put in that directory as it relates to your practice. So do we revisit the RPC? Of course, the RPC is old, and there are some things that we need to amend in light with current circumstances, but I don't believe it has... or shall I say it hinders people as much as we believe that it does. I believe that the online space is a big opportunity for lawyers. For example, look at Foza. She does a lot of stuff online, and a lot of people get to know about her work in the entertainment space via what she does online. Look at Ifeoma as well. I follow her on Twitter, of course, and I see how she educates people on legal issues. And of course, she's been able to get quite a lot of following, and a lot of people respect her opinions as a lawyer because of what she does. So I believe that younger lawyers who want to take advantage of the online space, there's a lot of opportunity for you. There's a lot you can do. And if you need a copy of the book, Social Media for Lawyers, to guide you, please, you can just come up to me after now. I can have a copy
the way you just
delivered to you.
easily plugged it in. Sell your market, bro. Very important. Thank you very much. Well done. I think that's a very important book to have because there are many young lawyers have that idea that there's so much restriction that the RPC provides. I'll move over to Edidiong and Ifeoma because yesterday was the 25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Gender-Based Violence. And for 16 days, there is the activism that ends on the 10th day of December, which is Human Rights Day. So we cannot have this conversation without talking about abuse. And I'm going to be focusing on sexual abuse. I was very excited to hear the speech by Professor Ige, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. Edidiong, your eyes on the inside. Since the release of the documentary Sex for Grades in 2019, would you say that there's been an improvement in conversations regarding sexual abuse in our higher institutions?
Thank you. Yes, I will say there has been. And I am going to use an instance. It was a very popular case when it happened, or at least on my end, I thought it was popular, where these students came forward a couple of years back to address sexual harassment in her school. And it was followed up eventually after being called to the bar and applying for a job. She was told outright at an interview, "Oh, we are sorry, we don't take whistleblowers here." I thought that was very heart-rending back then. However, after the Sex for Grades scandal, I was so happy for the encouragement that was garnered, the support garnered by that movement. So based on that comparison, I will say yes, there has been a great improvement in conversations about sexual harassment in schools.
All right, great. Ifeoma, you do amazing work with your foundation, Justice Beyond hashtags, encouraging, helping and providing support for survivors of sexual abuse, as well as ensuring that we know about our sexual rights. Give us the view from outside the academic institutions. How much progress have we made? What can we all in this room do to be a part of this movement?
Thank you very much. I believe that in the last 2 years, there's been improvements with removing the gag from people to express themselves about their sexual violence experience. Social media makes that very would I say, possible as well. Justice Beyond Hashtags Foundation started last year out of, social media cries for uh, justice for victims of sexual violence. So I thought that, lawyers can come together to help victims of sexual violence get justice. Justice Beyond Hashtags Foundation has three foundations upon which it stands: sensitization, helping victims of violence get justice, and then mental health support as well. I believe that what we can do as individuals in this place is to be educated about bodily autonomy, consent, understand the fact that every human has a right to dignity of themselves, and those rights are entrenched in the Constitution. Those rights should be safeguarded as well. Sensitization is very important because if we don't know, we can't help people. If we don't know that when we are faced with these sexual violence incidences, we would get help, we are not able to, come out to seek help. So people should be educated about it. The 16 Days of Activism and International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women gives us an opportunity to have an insight as to the statistics about women being violated. When you have these conversations, men say, what about us? But truly, if we talk about men, the statistics don't add up. Women are more open to or exposed to sexual violence. So have an education as to the laws that govern sexual violence, sexual rights. If we know the basics about it, we are able to hand it down to the generation coming, behind us. So all hands should be on deck. When people come out to say, oh, I have been sexually violated, it's not a time to start poking holes on their stories. You first of all believe them. Believe them until it's proven otherwise. And I mean, more often than not, it's not proven otherwise. So the first thing you should do is to support, believe them, give them an emotional backing to, lean against, so that we all together would fight the scourge of sexual violence, both in the workplace and
and the conversation goes beyond this room. So thank you for the work that you're doing with your foundation, and to everyone who's behind trying to ensure that we amplify the voices of everybody who is championing this cause. My last question before I open the floor for question and answers. Foza, you're a young person, you have your own firm, and I believe that you must have seen some lapses in the way the older generation has run legal practice. And I want you to sort of let us know what are some of the lapses that you've seen, and what generally can we do to make sure that the workplace is convenient for young people to succeed?
So first of all, I think I'm also blessed not to have been exposed to a lot of the bad behaviors, right? So a lot of things that I do in my practice is I follow I'm a Christian, so I have a lot of spiritual principles I follow and moral principles I follow and balance up with the global system. I think one of the things for me is the opportunity of communication. So everybody in my company know that I'm either one call away or my assistant is going to schedule you in for a phone call. But all the situations where there's been problems that needed fixing, it doesn't pass an hour. There's no, I want to set up thousands of committees, and there's always committee being set up and no implementation. So that for me, that bureaucracy for me, I try as much as possible to silence. I mean, now the company is getting bigger, my capacity and my time is getting smaller, but we've instilled in sub-leaders the openness and communication down to, so very early on, I started, even though to the max, I just understood personally what mental health does to people. But when my people complain of mental health, I was very quick to say, okay, you take a break. I don't need to know that you're physically sick, but mentally. Until this year, I understood. I'm like, oh, wow, this is what they were talking about. So I think that communication line, especially to the person at the top, not to the head of something that doesn't have the real power to change anything, is one thing that we really need to inculcate. And also, for older generation, one of the things I'm learning is as I'm growing, it's okay for me to relinquish power and move on. I shouldn't die in the place of power. At some age, I should go and relax on the beach and not be stressing myself. So I think that's a lot of, even in general in Nigeria, we have the older generation holding on to power. You are old, go and sleep, let's walk.
Wow, thank you very much. I think my panelists have been amazing. I'll open the floor for questions and answers. And does anyone have a question you'd like to ask? Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mine is not a question. It's actually to commend. I mean, sitting here and seeing young people doing in this space. For some of us, I'm 25 years in this space. And what's the space? Sexual and gender-based violence. Wow. So you're talking to me, my dear, about going to sleep, going to rest. Actually, you're talking to me. You know, I founded Project Alert on violence against women. I don't know how many of you have heard of Project Alert. 1999, January 1999. You know, so we the older ones want to go and sleep and rest. But what's happening is that a lot of younger people are not also getting things right. You know, you need to build. If you don't know where you're coming from, you will not know where you're going to. A lot of things have been taken, a lot of the rights we are talking of today. I have 3 daughters. My first child is a lawyer. A lot of the things you are benefiting today, the struggles, is our own struggles. Do you understand? So it's very important, and I'm so excited to see each and every one of you from different sectors here, you know, but still keen in on this. And all I can just say is kudos to that. Kudos to that, and just well done. You are still in school. You know, it's interesting. It's sad to hear we don't entertain whistleblowers, you know? So mine is just to say, well done, and just keep going. Keep pushing the bar, don't stop. Just keep going.
Thank you. And it's the work that the older generation has done that we are standing on. So thank you very much for your work. You'd like to say something real quick?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ma, for that comment. But I also want to add that a lot of the things that I feel like a lot of my generation suffer is that we don't know these stories, and because we don't have access personally sometimes. For example, you see, and I'm not trying to be funny, but like you see the rich people now, you ask them, what's your story? It's God. For the longest time, it pained me to be a Christian because there was no pathway to saying these were the struggles I went through, these were the things. Because when I hear that story, it encourages me. And also, I think Fem Network is doing it now. I think now the institutionalized mentorship, I think is something we need to. Women, especially, like what I do for my people is I show them my struggle. I'm open and plain. That, see, I've been successful in the entertainment industry because I was protected by men that at every point where I was supposed to face sexism, they stood up for me and they put me in front and said, you're not going to treat her that way, because they were dealing with their colleagues. For every other time that I had to do it myself, it was harder. But because I had men that were progressive and understood, you know, so it's easy for me to tell that story to someone else and do that for somebody. But, you know, a lot of people still have that, they don't have that access to information. So yeah. I always fight all my older people, my mom, everybody, like, please write your stories, talk about it. Please put it on record, because it helps us too.
I'm hoping from this, this conversation will birth more books and more mentorship sessions. Thank you very much. Do we have any other question or comment?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oladimeji Ibrahim. I work for United Nations Population Fund. United Nations Population Fund is a reproductive health and rights for women and girls. It's an agency under the United Nations. So I just want to push this because I've been hearing a lot of conversation about sexual rights. And one of the main foundations that we need to target on is to see how we can actually introduce comprehensive sexuality education into our secondary school. A comprehensive sexuality education is a long-time, age-appropriate curriculum that builds the capacity of young girls and boys in secondary school to make informed decisions. One of the issues we have over time is because young people do not know the right thing to do. And some of them do not know their rights. And secondly is that we want Ifeoma to actually see the opportunity of partnering with United Nations Population Fund under the Spotlight Initiative. One of our mandates is to have zero tolerance for gender-based violence and all forms of harmful practice against women and girls.
Okay.
Then we are looking at strengthening the capacity of institutions to give justice for survivors of GBV, free of charge. because we observe that majority of these survivors does not have the fund, the capacity to go through having justice in the court law. So we'll be happy to have partnership with you to move this foundation forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm happy to see that partnership.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll have a discussion after this session, but I mean, just to add to what he has said, it's important for us to, get back to the basics. Our schools, from the primary schools, from when, they are a tabula rasa, to, inculcate these sexual rights in them. Let them know that they have rights to their bodies, and that they would be protected when those rights are violated.
Very true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll have a discussion.
And whilst we have conversations where we're teaching our young ones, our kids in the primary school, to say, do not let this person touch you here or here, we must also teach them not to touch other people, because we focus on protecting our children, forgetting that sometimes, sadly, our children can be the abusers, could be the abusers, which is not something we hope will happen. So whilst you're teaching them, protect your body, don't let anyone touch you here, teach them not to touch other people as well. Thank you very much. Do we have any other question before we call it a day? All right, thank you very much. I'd like to urge every one of us, collectively, we have a role to play. It's not just about sitting on this panel and talking and looking pretty and fancy, but implementing all the, it seems like, okay, Isabella, one more person has a question. Do we have space for one more person?
The time is up, so we'll have to.
Unfortunately, I'm so sorry, but I'd like to please urge us to take the work beyond here, so that it's not a waste of our time to have gathered here to have this conversation. And even for the next 16 days, do your bit. Put up a post on Instagram or any social media platform. If you can't write about it, when other people write about it, reshare. Talk to your little children, talk to adults. You'll be surprised the mindset of a lot of grown-ups when it comes to sexual abuse. They still don't understand consent. They still don't understand what it is to say that your body is your body and you have rights. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Learned Silk, and all my learned seniors and the non-learned ones.